Hello, my name is Andrew Just, and in this scenario of using Forecast Builder, we're going to look at thunderstorms and severe weather. For this first example, we're going to look at a typical summer scenario where any rain shower can produce lightning. And first here, we're looking at the pops, and as you can see, they increase with time, kind of with the idea that you start off with, just a isolated showers, but then diurnal instability picks up, you get more coverage, and that's that. So we'll jump into Forecast Builder, and we're going to choose, in this case, the today time range, and we're okay to just jump right to the non-precipitation types because we're done with the foundation top-down accumulation grids. And for this, we could just choose the PoWT Thunder, and then click OK. And then for here, we've got values, again, for pop to begin mention in thunder, which we'll just keep at 15. You could have it higher. But then also, you have the value for maximum for PoWT Thunder, which we'll leave it at 100. So basically, this is going to copy your pop into your PoWT Thunder grid. So here we can look at that example where, again, you kind of see the same values that you had for pop are now in the probability of thunder. So we'll save these grids and then click OK to move on to the weather part. And then for the merge, we'll just leave all the settings alone. And there we have it. We have all the weather merged together, and you can see everywhere where you have a probability for a rain shower and thunderstorm, they're exactly the same. And we'll save those grids. All right. Slightly different scenario. We're just going to say it's a limited instability one. Let's say you just have a Genesis band as shown here. Maybe it's lifting off to the northeast with time and weakening. But you notice in a cross section you've got some negative EPV to work with, and so you could have some isolated lightning. So for this example, we'll just choose the kind of the afternoon time period here, jump into Forecast Builder. And for here, we'll just select the highlighted time range. And again, for this period, we were happy with our pops, QPF. We're good with the top downs, the precip types. So let's just jump to the non-precip types. And then we can click OK. So here we will choose the PoWT Thunder. And then hit OK. For here, we'll leave the pop to begin mention thunder alone at 15. It's kind of like the same value that pop produces precipitation at 15. But for the maximum value for PoWT Thunder, instead of leaving it like 100 in the previous example, we're going to slide this all the way down to around the 20 mark, and that represents an isolated thunderstorm. Here we'll click OK, and so you copied the pop into the PoWT Thunder via that tool, and then when you look at the PoWT Thunder grids, they max out at 20, which was the value that we had in the tool. So we'll save these grids and then press OK to move on to the weather step. So here, there's the option where you could change the weather type probability to coverage, as shown here. But for this example, let's just leave things alone. We'll just let it merge. So everything is going to come out with probability phrasing, slight chance, etc. So we'll take a look at those weather grids here. And so you see that at most you have slight chance of T, whereas everywhere else you just have the same pop go into the rain shower probability. Now, talking about coverage, let's say we want to move this to a coverage verbage. So we can go in, go to Forecast Builder, we'll choose that time range we highlighted, and now we don't need to work on thunder anymore. So let's just jump to the weather grids immediately right here. Click OK. Now with weather, we'll change rain showers and thunderstorms from probability to coverage. You could have easily just left rain showers alone and just did thunder and convert thunder to coverage, but for this example, we just did them both. And similar to the previous example, you've got rain showers with the same values as the pop, and that's that. So severe thunderstorms. The probability of severe grid, kind of a review here from the non-precipitation types module. The probability of severe grid can be used to introduce severe thunderstorms into the weather grid. Note that the values need to be greater than or equal to 30%. Kind of the idea of an enhanced risk of severe weather, not just a slight, but at least an enhanced. This gives you at least the ability to delineate in time and space the severe storm threat. Again, that's using the PoWT severe grid. So tool development is still needed for this grid. This grid is very new. There are options out there. One idea is the SPC convective outlooks, though those outlooks are 24-hour based. It'd be nice if they were more at least on the 6-hour time scale. There's also the SPC SREF calibrated severe probabilities, but those right now are just available on the web, and so bringing them into GFE would be kind of complex. Note that severe thunderstorm or tornado watches will automatically raise thunderstorm to severe in the weather grid, whether or not a probability of severe grid exists. So let's take a look at a couple examples how we get severe warden into the weather grid. First example here is this. We'll just take a squall line, and for ease, we'll just bring back the pops that we saw in the first example in this presentation. And again, pops are kind of moving out with time, so it is very similar to what you might see with the squall line, starting off with some high probabilities, and then cold front moves through and pushes the squall line out, and pops dry out. So I'll highlight the time range. We'll jump into Forecast Builder. Again, choose the highlighted time range because I highlighted there from 18 to 0Z. And we'll jump to the non-precip type since the severe is a non-precip type. So there's an option for probability of severe in this GUI, but when you hit OK to probability of severe, it doesn't do anything. And that's because there is no tool yet built in for probability of severe. So this makes things a little more complex until we get some tools developed, but that is the plan. So for now, we're just going to create a probability of severe grid that encompasses the time range here that we're interested in. I'm going to fragment that grid, and then for right now, I'll just copy what we have for probability of thunder into the probability of severe. And so this is a little bit of manual intervention. Again, there will be some tools developed over the next several months or so to make this a little easier. Making a tool that's very similar to the PoWT Thunder to do the PoWT Severe would be a pretty good first start, and that's sort of what I'm doing here in this example. Alright, so we have all the probability of thunder grids copied to the probability of severe grid, but these probabilities of severe seem really high. So what I'm going to do is run the adjust tool on these grids. And for this example, let's just say we're going to divide these values 1.5. Alright, so these severe probabilities get down at least to some more expected values, more similar to like what you might see on the SPC site. And again, for mention in severe thunderstorms, those values have to be greater than or equal to 30%. So we'll save the severe grids. We'll hit OK to move on to the weather step. And here we'll just leave all the defaults alone. And the weather merges. So we'll step along in time. And you will notice a separation there where you have T plus and no T plus. And that again is that 30% area in the probability of severe grid. Again, stepping through this, you can see you have the T plus here in this grid off to the east, and then no T plus mentioned off to the west. So you can kind of envision it that, hey, the back edge of the squall line is no longer severe. So that's just one kind of quick way that you could go through and put T plus into your grids, and it's nice. You could just go back in and adjust those probably severe grids spatially or temporally, rather than trying to re-update the weather grid manually. This is, I think, a much easier framework to do that in. Now let's see what happens when you add a watch into the equation. For here we're going to do a tornado watch. So starting off with the previous example where we had severe thunderstorms in the forecast, SPC puts out this tornado watch. You can see it delineated here from northeast Iowa into southwest Wisconsin. We're highlighting the hazard grid, jump it into Forecast Builder, and then for the start and end times, we'll choose the highlighted time range. And since we're happy with the foundation grids, we're happy with the top downs, happy with the precip types and accumulation grids, we're going to jump quickly here into the non-precips just to show you again what the probability of severe look like. So again, here are the probability of severe grids. We'll just hit OK to get the start moving the GUI here out of the way. So moving along, you wouldn't need to jump to the non-precip types. Just really wanted to show you again what the probability of severe grids look like. So we'll hit OK. And now for the weather, far right of this dialog is optional attributes for tornado watch hazards. You got tornado, small hail, large hail, damage and wind, heavy rain. For this example, we'll keep the tornado and the damage and wind, and we're going to click off large hail. So we're just going to say this watch area has concerns for tornado and damage and wind. Hit OK, and you'll see that the time period of the watch, the weather grids are updated for. So then we'll look at these weather grids. It's almost done. There it is. So we have tornado and damage and wind attributes applied there to wherever the tornado watch was. And you still have the T plus both over the tornado watch and where the probability of severe grids existed a little bit off to the west. Again, so kind of show you that watch. Again, it's over that southwest Wisconsin, northeast Iowa. And we'll jump back to the weather grid, and again you see the area where the watch is, and the tornado and damage and wind attributes plus the T plus being applied. And then you go farther west, and the T plus goes completely away because it's out of both the watch and the probability severe area, or at least the probability severe area has less than 30% values. All right. So that was with the probability severe grids. So let's just say, for example, you were thinking severe, or you didn't have the probability severe grids in there, and you got the watch. So let's just show you what that scenario would have looked like. So here we'll just choose the afternoon. In this case, the highlighted time range I did. Let me jump to the non-precip type step. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the probability severe grids. So we're just going to keep the probability of thunder, get rid of the severe. So this might happen on occasion where you get a watch but you don't have a probability severe grid in there. So we'll hit OK. Now for the weather, we still have the tornado watch hazards by default clicked. Let's just click off large hail. So we just have tornado and damage and wind again. And now that time range that I highlighted is updated for the weather grids. And you'll notice now the T plus is only where the tornado watch area is. No longer is it a little bit off to the west where there was that area for probability severe. So there, southwest Wisconsin, there you get the tornado damage and wind, but then you move off into southeast Minnesota and that goes away because you get out of the watch area. So let's switch gears a little bit to look at flash flood watches. Here's an example where I have my QPF grid there with some values, and for this I'll just leave the pop grids like we've had in some previous examples. Sorry about the colors. It's from the program here trying to capture data off of GFE, off AWIPS. So for this, let's just choose the today period in Forecast Builder. Happy with the foundation grids, top downs, We're happy with the precip types. Let's go into the weather grid step. So for the flash flood watch scenario, note on the far right, there's an area for flood watch hazards, and you'll see there's a button for heavy rain. By default, that's clicked. So just hit OK to the weather step GUI, and all the weather grids will update. And you will see that the only area where heavy rain is mentioned is over the flash flood watch area, which is here in northeast Iowa and far southwest Wisconsin. So let's take a look at those weather grids to kind of show you that. Again, zoom in. You see the heavy rain attribute applied only in northeast Iowa and far southwest Wisconsin where the watch is. If you look to the north, it goes away, and that's correct. And then if you also went into central or northern Wisconsin, it goes away there as well. So questions, feedback. You can send an email to nws.forecastbuilder@noaa.gov or visit our VLab page, which is shown at the address on the screen. And I'd like to thank you for watching.